Thanks for tuning in. Today we're diving into My Stock DNA, a fintech company and their premise on managing risk to get higher returns. A big topic for anyone managing investments, right, Ruth?
Absolutely. Risk management is often the key to unlocking those higher returns, which is something many people tend to overlook.
They have built model results that are being used by well-known advisors across the US. They've got an interesting approach to investment management for sure, and we'll be breaking it down slide by slide.
That's right. My Stock DNA was founded by Sudhir Halla, who as a managing director at Accenture played a key role in leveraging technology and data science on. He's partnered with Professor Kumar Muthuraman from the University of Texas at Austin, who brings a wealth of academic insights into AI and finance. Before we move on, we have to make a quick stop. It's time for the legally required disclaimer.
Yes, the necessary pause before we dive into the real meat of things. For those of you following along, this is your cue to pause the video or audio if you need to review the disclaimer in detail.
Here's where it gets interesting. Is it possible to build a mathematical model that beats the S&P 500, even with randomly picked stocks?
I love this question. And the answer is, surprisingly, yes, but with a few caveats.
Exactly. It's not as simple as picking stocks randomly. The secret is in managing risk with the right controls, which is what My Stock DNA focuses on. We'll explain more in just a bit. So, let's talk about Moneyball. It's the story of Billy Beane, the general manager of the Oakland A's, who had an epiphany. Conventional wisdom in baseball was all wrong.
Exactly. Faced with a tight budget, Beane reinvented his team by using data to outsmart wealthier ball clubs. He recruited undervalued players with game-winning potential. Dismissed.
Right. And it worked. Beane challenged the old-school ways of building a team, and his strategy focused on minimizing losses instead of just chasing home runs. It's the same with investing. Most games are lost, not won, as Casey Stengel famously said.
Which brings us to portfolios. What if we applied that same idea to the S&P 500? Instead of trying to win big every time, we manage risk and win by not losing. That's where AI can come in and help build a team of stocks that works together, just like in Moneyball. Alright, Ruth, let's take a look at the performance of one of these models. This chart shows the returns for the UMAI moderate portfolio compared to the S&P 500.
Yeah, the black line represents the S&P 500, and the blue line is the moderate portfolio. What's interesting here is how the portfolio avoids the big drops, like during the 2008 to 2009 financial crisis.
Exactly. The market dropped by 50%, but the risk-based approach of the model meant it didn't fall into that same ditch. That's key because when you avoid the big dips, you don't need as much effort to climb back up.
And that's how you end up with higher returns over time. It's not just about chasing big gains, but about the big losses. Managing risk is really like trying to avoid falling into a ditch. You can't avoid all of them, but the goal is to stay out of the big ones, right?
Exactly. And it's that constant effort of trying to avoid those big risks that makes all the difference. Not every portfolio can dodge every drop, but if you avoid the larger declines, you'll come out ahead in the long run. Let's talk about benchmarks. Most models are trying to beat something like the S&P 500 or the bond index, but here's where My Stock DNA takes a different approach.
Exactly. Instead of trying to beat the market, they're focused on managing to a straight line, a smooth and consistent growth over time. The goal is to make the ride up the hill as smooth as possible, not necessarily faster.
Right. It's about consistency. By focusing on managing risk rather than chasing big wins, you end up reaching your destination faster because you avoid the setbacks along the way.
And once again, it's the concept of winning by not losing. That's what makes this approach so different from others. Let's dive into how we manage risk. There are 4 key strategies.
The first one is asset diversification, where you spread your investments across different assets, stocks, bonds, gold, and even cash. This helps lower risks since these assets don't all move in the same direction.
Then, there's moving to cash when volatility spikes. To visualize this, visualize the Matrix movie where Neo dodges bullets. When Neo sees bullets flying everywhere, if he steps out of the room entirely, that is equivalent to moving to cash. It keeps you safe when the market is chaotic.
And if you stay in the room and dodge the bullets Neo style, it is the equivalent of trying to short the market or buy volatility. You might avoid some, but the risk is high. And if you're not fast enough, you could get hit.
Exactly. Lastly, there's time diversification, where you diversify across strategies with different time frames, like quarterly or monthly rebalancing. It's about having multiple tools to navigate different market conditions.
Now that we've set the stage, let's talk about Darwin. Darwin is my stock DNA's AI agent, and it's designed to manage risk while aiming for higher returns as a byproduct.
That's right. Think of Darwin as your investment co-pilot. It's using the same principles we've discussed, like managing risk to avoid the big losses, but instead of doing it manually, Darwin does it using advanced AI techniques. Let's break down what makes Darwin special. It's not the individual ingredients but the recipe that sets it apart.
Exactly. Darwin brings together well-known models and theories, like modern monetary theory, the Markowitz efficient frontier, and even turtle trading principles, but in a unique combination.
But it's how these models are mixed together that makes Darwin effective.
That's the secret. None of these concepts are new, but Darwin's strength lies in how it combines these tools to create an innovative approach to managing portfolios. In the financial industry, back tests are everywhere. They're often used to show how well a strategy would have performed in the past, but there's a big problem with that: survivorship bias.
Exactly. Survivorship bias means that only the best performing stocks or strategies make it into the back test, leaving out the ones that failed. This gives a skewed view of performance that wouldn't hold up in the real world.
That's where the blindfolded chimp challenge comes in. It minimizes survivorship bias by using randomly picked stocks and letting Darwin's risk management do the heavy lifting. It's not about picking the best stocks, it's about showing that even with random choices, the model can deliver solid, risk-adjusted performance.
And the fun part is trying to use on the Sharpe ratio. Darwin is so focused on managing risk that it's hard to perform worse than the S&P 500 on a risk-adjusted basis, even when the stock picks are random. Now, let's cover some key disclaimers about these models.
First, they don't use small-cap stocks, naked shorts, options, or futures. There's controlled use of leveraged and short ETFs in selected portfolios.
Another point, these models are optimized for monthly volatility, not daily. That means while daily drawdowns might appear higher, the monthly figures show the true risk level.
And remember, the models are designed to be boring, like a roller coaster built for kids, meaning it's all about smooth, steady growth rather than wild ups and downs.
Exactly. And when it comes to risk, think of it like driving on icy roads. Sometimes it's better not to drive at all than take the risk.
So, remember the two people behind my stock DNA we mentioned earlier? The tech geek, Sudhir Hulla, and the academic expert, Professor Kumar Muthuraman?
Yes, they teamed up with UX Wealth, a well-known turnkey asset management platform or TAMP, to distribute their models to advisors in the US.
Right. UX Wealth is recognized for using AI and machine learning to optimize investment strategies. So, it's a perfect partnership, combining tech, academic expertise, and innovative financial tools.
Exactly. This collaboration has helped bring my stock DNA's AI-driven models to a wider audience of financial advisors. Pretty exciting stuff. And that concludes the TikTok version of our presentation. Stick around if you want to learn more about Darwin and also importantly the scenarios in which the Darwin-generated models does not perform as well.
If you're interested in trying out Darwin yourself, head over to the My Stock DNA website.
You'll find the blindfolded chimp challenge there, along with performance data on the UMAI portfolios and the strategies behind them. It's all updated regularly, so you can see near real-time results. Keep in mind that the performance data does not include fees, commissions, or any kind of trading slippage.
And don't forget to check out Darwin in action for yourself. It's a great tool to see how AI can help manage risk and optimize portfolios in ways that traditional methods might miss.
If you have any questions, you can also ask ELF, their AI investment coach. Feel free to ask any questions related to portfolio management. Keep in mind that ELF is still in beta mode.
For those interested in reading, you can also head over to Amazon and buy their book Moneyball Investing, which gets into more details on how Darwin works.
Thanks for joining us today. If you have any questions, feel free to reach out to the My Stock DNA team. They'd be